Pokemon Sterling Silver is the hardest Pokemon mod out there for Pokemon Soul Silver. Pokemon Sterling Silver adds some awesome stuff, like type changes and buffs to underloved Pokemon, difficult new fights, and so much more. Here are our Nuzlocke rules that we use all the time in our runs, with permadeath, 1 mon per area, no items in battle, and hard level caps. Attempt 17 was the run where we were able to showcase the story of Pokemon Sterling Silver. The starter choice isn't as simple as normal Johto, as all 3 starters gain an epic secondary type, an ability, as well as some small stat buffs. I hadn't used it at all yet, so on run 17, I went with Totodile. This guy gets Shell Armor to block critical hits, turning into Intimidate later, filling a role similar to another physical water type that we all know and love. The Hackmaker also added a neat little care package for the player in the lab, with heals, repels, and more to make your life easier, and less reliant on using PK Hex. Our first encounter Rattata would prove to become a vital piece of the run, with adaptability and a plus attack nature, as well as later getting access to the move Sucker Punch and a dark typing, making it on par with some powerhouses like Mawile and Absol. The route north gets us Weedle, another decent enough Pokemon earlier as well with adaptability to give it some real oomph in its arsenal. In Cherry Grove, I get laughed at by a vanishing old guy for having shoes before heading into Mr. Pokemon's house. As it turns out, he's no longer exiled from Cherry Grove City, and I get the Pokedex as well before heading back home to go to bed and end the run. Just kidding, we actually punch our rival in the face, steal his wallet and learn his name, and then rat him out to the police. I go home, I get to grab my phone and go out into the land of Johto, as on Route 30, we get a Numel. This guy takes a little while to come online, but trust me, it'll come online to become one of the best Pokemon of the entire run, with buff defenses as well as the Shell Armor ability making it all the more useful. Route 31 then gives us Finneon? Why is this in the grass? Who knows, but it'll be a decent enough Pokemon. Shame that it's my 4th brave-natured Pokemon of the run already, but we have the chance to slide in a dark cave and get a fossil for ourselves as we pick up a Battle Armor Kabuto. And you're not going to believe it, this is brave! Just kidding, it was neutral. Now, you'd think we'd just go to take on Falkner, right? Well, there's a little someone in the way. You know that gym leader whose name no one remembers? Let me know in the comments who she is again. Nah, for real though, her team of Sneasel, Swinub, and Snover is super chill and we can blast through her. Back to Falkner though. This is his team in Vanilla Soul Silver, and this is his team in Sterling Silver. A completely different kettle of fish, and I want as many options as possible available to make the best team I can. Violet City has an awesome fishing encounter in the newly normal type Azurill line, opening up the damage output to be so much higher. With our adamant huge power guy, a little unfortunate on the IVs. A Sprout Tower gives us Execute, which doesn't come online until much later in the game when we get access to stones. We get an F in the ruins of Ulf, and then a Mareep on Route 32 south of Violet to flesh out our box before the first gym. In Generation 2, Sprout Tower is generally classed as optional. However, Heart Gold Soul Silver makes it necessary to clear out before going to Falkner. The main part of the tower is nothing serious, but Elderly in the back is packing some serious heat, with 5 Pokemon of different types. After beating him, we get the keys to the castle and can go take on Falkner. The increased level cap of level 17 at least allows us to evolve our starter and have a Beedrill for Falkner. After some careful planning, I go in like this. My lead unknown goes to face up to his Intim Staravia with a hidden power, as I believed he was going for U-turn, and this allows me to break Murkrow's Chardyberry. A quick switch to Kabuto and an Accelerock later means that Murkrow is already out of the way. Gligar comes in and is looking to use Bulldoze on my ass, so I go to Marill, hit a stab fake out, and then decide to drop its attack with a charm rather than hit it with Bubble Beam. I then risk the crit and stay in a turn before sending in Croconaw to handle the little guy. As the newly electric type Pidgeotto comes in to go for Shockwave, I go for speed control with Rock Tomb and I now outspeed. But I didn't want to leave my starter in, so I swung to Unown to go to Rock Hidden Power, leaving just a sliver on both sides. I'm in a risky spot now though, as there's nothing I can switch in, forcing me to let Unown go. Press F to pay respects. Marill's able to then kill it off with a fake out, and Fluffy can spark the Primplop out of here, before some pivoting to Croconaw gets us the Zephyr badge for our troubles. Damn, I feel really in control here, as we were able to pivot our way through that fight with just a single death. And if you know me, I'm a pretty big fan of using controllers to play my games. You already know, I have a pretty small keyboard. My little 60% here doesn't always do the trick. And thanks to today's video sponsor GameSir, that's made my life a lot easier. The guys over there hooked me up with the T7 wired controller for today's video. I'm able to use it to play games like Persona, or what about Pokemon? it can literally play anything on your PC. This is also compatible with Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC, so you don't just have to be limited to one thing. The GameSir T7 is a great wired controller that lasts up to 5 million cycles with its new anti-drift technology. These guys also took a prize for Best Gaming Controller of 2024, so you know you're getting a good deal with these guys. And you can get yourself one today using my link in the description down below. And thanks to them for sponsoring this video. After getting the Zephyr badge, we also get our very own Adamant Huge Power Fake Out and soon Aquajet Dual Stab Azumarill. Whew, that's a mouthful. An egg that will hatch one day, and our normal Dark Adaptability Eradicate. After taking our time with these reasonably tough fights and skipping the optionals for now as we'll get those TMs later, we get to Union Cave, where there's a fishing table with some good stuff and a sparkly little guy we'll get later on. Fishing here gives us a Zubat. Not bad, not great either in this, as ours has a 0 attack IV and a mild nature, making it a little awkward to use well. Next on the list for us is Maylene though, not Bugsy. She has a quartet of fairly strong fighting types, including Graveler? Funny little fighting type if you ask me, but all it could do was boom, so it was whatever. Route 33 lets us go and get a rather dry Magikarp before heading into Ilex Forest to get a Burmy, and climb down into Slowpoke Well to deal with Proton and his goons. Shockingly, we get a Slowpoke in the water while we're down here. Proton's a pretty hard fight, but I can lead Arzu to hit a big Fake Out and a Body Slam straight after to leave it reeling, as Proton then swings into his Voltorb, and thanks to the paralysis, I can then outspeed and take the kill the next turn. Beedrill then slaps the Ivysaur up with its needles, and Houndour is child's play for Gyarados, as he's coughing and the last bit of health is for Eradicate on Golbat. Now we can take on our rival, but I make the smart choice and head into the gym, where Bugsy is waiting for us to come at them for the second gym badge. They have a pretty serious team, with threats like Pinsir and Heracross ready to rip you a new one. I lead Beedrill against the Illumise and didn't realise I was speed-tied when calking, so to my surprise, risked a critical Hyper Beam and fired back with the Twin Needle. Thanks to the level up I got though, I outsped the Anorith and killed it as well with a Twin Needle as Scyther comes out to go for Wing Attack. I can bounce my Gyarados as Vibrava comes out to fire with Rock Tombs, as I can go to Croconaw and double Ice Fang to kill the Sandfly. Heracross comes out and was going for a random move thanks to my HP being low, so I go to Golbat who tanked the Aerial Ace and allowed me to clap back with a pair of Wing Attacks. One from each wing I guess, as the last Mon Pinsir hits the field. And with a pivot through Arzu going for Fake Out, then to Gyarados, I can bounce on the Hornbeetle and beat Bugsy's gym to get an insect badge in my pocket as well as all the status berries in infinite supply. 2 badges and 1 death for this is pretty good, and we can head into Whitney Split with our head held high. The next roadblock on our path is Gardenia. She's managed to send me packing before not once but twice thanks to her super powerful Roserade. This time I'm able to put her to sleep with my eggs though, and can quickly ping through the bat to wallop it like I did with Hera. She gives me the extra status berries for Aspear and Persimberries, as well as a super great item in the Big Root, allowing Pokemon like Ludicolo and Sunflora to come so much better with their healing capabilities. We get out of the forest on the other side, and while I could go through the grass, it actually makes no difference as trainers in this game can unfortunately see more than 2 meters ahead of them. So after clapping a couple guys' cheeks, we can go for a fishing encounter to get a potentially amazing Pokemon for the run. And we pull the crab, but not just any crab, an adamant crab with maximum attack. Truly an awesome Pokemon with a newly added Steel typing making it that much more versatile. We make it into Goldenrod after being mistaken for Ethan's girlfriend, but we now have 2 options. Option 1 is to go to the Goldenrod gym and take on Whitney for her badge, then go up the route north and clear them all out with overleveled Pokemon. Or option 2 is that we can take on these routes north now. If you picked option 2, where we slowly crawl up these routes against some scary fights, and get a new trio of Electrike, Gligar and Mankey before squaring up to Dawn and taking her Drain Punch TM, you'd be right. Now though, we can go for Whitney's Jugular, and her team is stacked. She carries threats like Scrappy Lopunny to hit ghosts, Technician Fake Out Ambipom to incapacitate you, a Togekiss with insane bulk, and an always trusty Miltank ready to roll you out onto the red carpet. I lead off with my Gyarados against the Lopunny and take the -1 Fake Out and the following return before taking down the Cheerleader. Next in is Corsola, and I know what you're thinking, that's a crazy normal type. And I agree, it's an amazing water type, as the water rock type is decimated by a couple slices from Lumineon of all things, and the Girafarig comes out to go for Thunderbolt. So I go over to Wormadam and we get lucky as I then proceed to get flinched by Zen Headbutt before getting off just 1 Silver Wind. That flinch ended up costing me Wormadam's life though, as Manectric can then outspeed and kill the Girafarig the next turn with Thunderfang. I go for 1 to proc the Citrus Berry on Togekiss, and unfortunately I got crit. So I had to go for a speedy Volt Switch to Luminion, and Icy Wind kills the egg. Miltank finally hits the showroom floor, so I go to Gyarados and Intim drop it before being slammed with a critical body slam to the nads, and another Intim from Mask puts the cow to half attack, as I can then outdamage it with Bubble Beams to 3-hit KO. Ambipom hits the field, so I go to Kabuto, and after a pair of Rock Slides I can go for a Cellar to shoot down the monkey and get my 3rd badge in what was a really tough fight. Still, 3 badges with 3 deaths is not really bad at all, considering now we get a bunch of evolutions and have built a solid nest egg of a box that covers nearly all bases at this point. We get some new Evos with Primeape, Feraligatr, Kingler, Camerupt, Crobat and Kabutops all coming out to play. Rudely of the creator, we aren't even allowed to play it at the Pokeathlon because they would have to change out the stones in the shop, but we can still get a new encounter in the grass here as we get a Pineco for ourselves, and this guy will come online much later. Before looking at Morty the Ghost Gym though, we can go around and get some new Pokemon, with Spinder on 37, Cubone in Mount Mortar, and Swinub on 38. Honestly, not a bad little clique, and with the Thick Club item on Route 38, we do now have a great physical attacker. Now up is a hot little fight against Morty, the Ghost Gym Leader, who only carries 3 Ghost types, and one of them wasn't even a Ghost in Vanilla, as the Rotom forms are corrected to be type exclusive to their forms. Oh yeah, this fight's also in Permanent Sun for some reason. I lead with the Rat to go for a Sucker Punch and slam the balloon into next week as he sends in the oven, so I go to my Shell Armor Volcano to sling rocks in its face to take it out. This brings in Tangrowth, who has Chlorophyll like my Sunflora, so I can double resist the Giga Drain on the switch in before literally firing in on the Vines next turn. Ninetales poses an interesting threat though, as I'm forced to go to my Croc and thankfully have Rawst on it in case of a burn. I have to dodge 1 crit and then go for Crunch to proc Focus Sash, and an Aqua Jet kills off the Fox as Gengar comes into play. I pivot through Sunflora to get the Rat in, who could Sucker Punch both Gengar, and then the preceding Hypno for 1-shots, getting my 4th badge in rather easy fashion. In theory, 4 badges should signify the halfway point in the game, but that almost couldn't be further from the truth in this game. Like, literally. We're more like a third of the way through, but thanks to us being able to surf, we can grab a ton of new items and get jumped by something that I definitely knew about and totally reset the game over wiping to. We meet Balber on the way to the next gym, and he gives us Crack Rocks to evolve our Pokemon without their permission, as I then fish in Olivine and catch a mouse from under the pier, a Box Warmer on Route 39, and the ocean routes give us some potential with Fione on Route 40 and a Lotad on 41, which is Rain Dish instead of Swift Swim, but with the limited weather in this game, it's really not a bad thing. I then pick up a pretty horrible jellyfish in Cianwood City and an Onyx in the Cliff Edge Gate. And we beat Chuck's gym trainers and look at him and his team. Kinda chill, right? Chuck leads off with the newly fighting type Staraptor, and a couple counters lets me take out the big Burb. Blaziken wants to fist me with fire, so I go through the big gate at a 2-hit KO with Aqua Jets. Electivire then wants to go for the kill, but Marowak is immune to both of its stabs and can Bonemerang it into the stratosphere. Ludi handles Poliwrath, and then I switch to Gliscor on Armoldo, and with the help of Poison Heal and a Toxicorp, has the survivability to outlive Armoldo's attacks, and is able to switch to Azumarill on Dougie's Ice Shard thanks to its flying typing, as Arzu takes Ice Shard and fires off an Aqua Jet to kill off the Mole for the Storm Badge and the Fly HM. Before we can really go back to the mainland and help out Amphi from a pickle, we hear news of a problem out by the Safari Zone, as Bauber from before calls for our help. This does, however, allow us to pick up a new pair of Pokemon before the next major fight, with Fishing allowing us to get a Cast Form on Route 47, and a Solrock in Cliff Cave that just needed Levitate to be useful, but alas, you can't have everything you wish for, am I right? Before Route 48 in front of Safari Zone gets us a Vulpix. Unfortunately, it's impish, but it could be worse. It's not my 10 brave-natured Pokemon. Awaiting us at the end of Route 48 for some reason is Giovanni to go help his team that are absolutely not present anywhere near here, but he wants to be a bit dominant and make a 10-year-old submit to him. We actually were able to handle him super easily and could go to the Safari Zone as a reward and get a Magnemite. This guy's actually buffed in this game unnecessarily, but we'll take a levitating steel type any day of the week. Now though, we can help Amphi out of its pickle in the lighthouse and make Jasmine do her job. Unlike the past few gyms, Jasmine's fight has a couple of gimmicks. This fight is a double battle, but also a Trick Room double battle for the first 5 turns. Way to make the slow steel type Pokemon you have good offensively, right? I lead off Mamoswine and Sunflora in order to get a Fake Out and Flamethrower off in order to take out Scizor, as on the next turn Empoleon hits the field. Having water types on the field I think bugged the AI here, as Bronzong sees Thunderbolt as super effective, whilst being unaware of the partner having Motor Drive. I don't know if Motor Drive draws in electric moves personally, but hey, it's okay, it made my life a little easier as I was only getting targeted by one Pokemon. Either that or there's going to be a super fast Empoleon on turn 6, so I get it out of the way and dodge a critical hit on my own Mon as I fully expected it to target the Emperor once more. Now in comes Magnezone, so I feel a double electric target coming and have to double switch to my ground pair of Marowak and Mamoswine. It's at this point where Trick Room expires and I can really start wailing on Jasmine's Pokemon. But because both saw Psychic as the highest damaging move, they went for that, letting me pivot with Gator and Camerupt to Sunflora and Azumarill, through a Volt Switch from Magnezone. I go for the double kill with Flamethrower killing Steelix and Waterfall killing off Bronzong. This just leaves Magnezone and Bastiodon. Bastiodon got a stat rework and a type change in this game, making its Draco Meteors super threatening. Another double switch later and Bastiodon takes solid recoil and does go down the next turn to a Bone Meringue, as Magnezone set up Rain, maybe to stop me spamming the lava plumes that I never had intention to. From here, I just swing Mamoswine in and wail on the Magnet with rocks for a long-winded but deathless Jasmine fight. Now we're about halfway through. Well, based off of raw numbers anyway, because there's so many trainers to fight still. Upon arrival in Mahogany Town, I can learn Headbutt from the tutor here, and we can get a couple new encounters, including a decent Noctowl, but also the one, the only, Skill Link Heracross. Route 43 gives me the amazing, extraordinary, epic Pidgey, except it's adamant with no special or speed. Truly an epic Pidgey. And Lake of Rage, I decide to enact Shiny Claws and pick up the big red guy. Now comes a butt ton of back-to-back scary guys and some executives in Rocket Hideout. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the final battle down here. This is a 12 vs 12 fight in a similar vein to Renegade Platinum's famed Spear Pillar Brawl. This time, rather than our shitty rival alongside us, it's a dragon guy, rah! Lance's team is handy, and it will pull its weight here, as I lead Gyarados alongside his Aerodactyl to get off and Intimidate. I immediately switch to Steelix as Aero drills the snake for decent damage. One more kills off the snack, and I can go for Earthquake doing solid damage myself, as I'm then dead to Earth Power from Camerupt. I then go to Gyarados and Intim to drop them again, before this time going for solid Waterfall to do good damage and take down Camerupt. I then switch back to Steelix and back to Gary, expecting a fighting move, not helping hand, as Ampharos does good damage with D-Pulse. I know Gary's dead here and I can't stay in, so I go out to Steelix Sled again to let the Honchkrow take itself out. I predict Gliscor correctly, going out to Gary for what feels like the 80th time in this fight, as Marchamp handled Ampharos, bringing out Blastoise for Lance's side. I'm confident Blastoise will kill Gliscor, so I stay in a turn and take out the Crab Duct build guy thing, and then bring out the special threats in Gengar and Jolteon. Yet again, I'm double targeted for 0 damage, and now am in an amazing position to clean up on this fight. Switching to Arzu on the HP water as Blastoise took a bomb to the face allowed me to simply finish off the Jolteon and bring in Mismagius. I'm pretty safe here, so I bring out the Beetle for the first time in a while, and Dragonite kills off Gengar. I know I don't outspeed Espeon on the next turn, and pivot backwards and forwards until Espeon's taken out by Dragonite, before staying in with Rat Jesus and killing the Magician, while Arcanine and I handle the dog, and I let Magnezone and Heracross out to finish the 12v12 in style, without a single death. Jeez, that was a long fight, and about 450 switches in it too. Apologies it was so long, so much was happening I just had to go in depth there. After successfully cleaning up house, I can get my own Electrode, a Pokemon that's been barred off for the entire game up until this point, except for the odd 1% here or there. In order to progress from here, we've got to take on the second last gym leader in Pryce. His gym can't be that hard, right? It's just Hail in doubles. Pryce leads with Mamoswine and Starmie, while I start off with Azumarill and Electrode. Fake Out incapacitates the Starmie, and a single bomb takes out the big woolly guy. This brings out a Bomasnow, who's looking to target me with something scary, if only my balls didn't destroy it. Azu takes big damage from the incoming Thunderbolt, but I can still do good stuff to Starmie anyways. Here though, I make the tough choice to allow Azumarill to fall in order to retain momentum and take out the Weavile safely. 07 to my adamant 3-attack legend, you won't be forgotten. Heracross can join the party here, and I can finally take out Starmie with Thunderbolt and do massive damage with Arm Thrust to Lapras. A Magna Bomb takes out the Spoopy Ghost, and a Thrust of the Hands takes out Pryce and gives my ass the Glacier Badge. You know what time it is now, right? It's time to give Team Rocket an ass blasting in the Goldenrod Tower. And for the most part I did. The only real nervy fights here are the executives. Speaking of which, we're gonna fight them all again. Petrol here is stanced up like a motherfucker. His lead Pidgeot is kinda terrifying, but I'm able to outdamage it, only for him to switch next turn. Luckily, Dragon Pulse did big damage and Sceptile took itself out on the next turn. I'm able to go to Ninetales on the Magmortar to get a Flash Fire boost, and chip away at it to beat it out. Wailord's in and as scary as ever, but luckily for me, Big Root Ludicolo Giga Drains to just miss the 2-hit KO, but I can still beat it on the next turn. Pidgeot returns to the field, and I can only go to Ampharos safely as he brings in the big Kanga. I take the fake out on Amphi before slinging Magnezone at it on the Earthquake. I get lucky and paralyze it to be able to take it out in 3, as Absol the final one hits the field, but that's why we brought our fighting types to slap it and win even through the Choppleberry. The grunts are consistently getting scarier and scarier, and I'm genuinely fighting these guys at a pace that makes Run and Bun look fast. We're able to slowly power through, but not without shitting all over our rival again, and getting the keys to the rest of Radio Tower. A little mishap against Proton Suicune kinda may have resulted in me losing Slowbro. Oops. We make it through to Archer, with that being the only death in Radio Tower to this point, and are lining up to face him for one last tussle. His lead Tauros gets packed in by my Forretress, and thanks to my Citrus Berry, that limits his move usage on Houndoom, meaning Tentacle gets to take heat to the face before clapping the big dog with some surf damage. Raikou comes out and I can go to Exeggutor, who hits its Sleep Powder and goes in with a big Leaf Storm as he then brings in Gengar, putting me in an awkward spot. Thankfully the rat can get us out of it, and a quick skim over the calcs tells me we can take out Mr. Sabertooth Tiger as well. Ludicolo comes out on the Starmie and Giga Drains it, putting it into red health. I know there's the chance of a crit coming in here, and I don't outspeed. So I go back to Exeggutor, and boom, the crit finally comes. Eggy dies, but this allowed me to get the rat in to kill off the Starfish, as Tyranitar, his ace, comes out to play. One pivot later means that Primeape destroys any semblance of hope for Archer's plans and unlocks the rest of the region for us. Route 44 finally gives me a real ice type in Jinx. This speed demon's really freaking good, with 115 in both its special attack and its speed, as well as a great level up learn set. Ice Path follows and gives me the complete opposite of this ice type, with an ice type from the other side of the spectrum in Celio. Walreign's buffs are fairly minor at this point, with it gaining miserably in both defenses. The route south of Blackthorn gives me the intriguing Dragonair. It's a shame though, because would you believe it? It's brave, and has a total of 2 attacking IVs. It is what it is at this point, as we're nearing the end of the game, meaning we can slowly begin being more liberal with sacking mons and the like. What happened against Clair was not really what I had in mind. This fight is not just any other gym battle, it's another double battle, but what's the actual gimmick here, you might ask? Well, let's just say we're outnumbered. This is a fight against both Clair and the demoted Lance in a disgusting 8 vs 6 battle, and it's truly a run killer if you're not careful. You just know these guys are packing heat when they lead the Lardy twins together. I fake out Latios and manage to just take out Latias with a Sucker Punch. Charizard comes out, so I go over to Kabutops as Latios gets suckered into a new dimension. I kinda didn't realise Charizard had Focus Blast and it kinda clapped the rat, destroying it, so I brought out Gator. I Waterfall Zard and quickly swung Gator out to Marowak as Kabutops got sucked off the field. Now it's a 5 vs 4, not as bad. I fake out Salamence and have faith in Marowak dodging the max roll crit, and we take out Ampharos, bringing in Kingdra. Ice Beam does just enough to kill Salamence as Kingdra bazookas my Marowak. Slowly we've leveled the playing field, as Gengar then gets crit by a Draco Meteor as Dragonite tries to set up the Dragon Dance. Jinx is then able to try and take both out at once with a massive blizzard, and I suckered the Dragonite just in case it was going to try killing Jinx. This just leaves Clair with her Rampardos and a Dream, as Gator and Jinx are able to clean up, getting us our very own Rising Badge. Well, after a short little detour in the Dragon's Den, getting another Dratini and a kinda good Gabite. I decided to get rid of the second Dratini as I already had one, and this one wasn't shiny or anything, so there was nothing special about it. From here the path is clear. All that lies in our way is the routes leading to Victory Road, and a few absolutely disgraceful boss fights, but I've already got some kind of Elite 4 team going through my head. We'll get to that shortly. In this game, the creator made it so each of the Kimono Girls carry legendaries. I don't know why, but hey, let them be, I guess. These guys proceeded to kill my Whirl Islands encounter of... yeah, that's a Spinarak. Woo. Luminion beats the god of the seas, telling my mum I'm strong enough to go to the league, and I also get some purple fish thing that's pretty cool and sparkly before going to start the trek up to the Pokemon League. Our final encounters are nothing to scoff at either, with us picking up an amazing Darksteel Absol and a timid Curlier, both ready to cause absolute havoc in the Pokemon League. Oh, yeah, we had a few more deaths on the way there. This resulted in us losing Raichu to the last trainer prior to Victory Road, Electrode and Solrock to them being goaded with the Source and blowing the cave in, and another triad in some optional fights to get the Leftovers item and the Volt Switch TM. Now we're at the Gates of Hell. Well, actually just the door to the Pokemon League. These guys are different to Vanilla, as Will now runs something of a Sun team, and Bruno has access to Sand at all times to make your life that little bit harder. At the same time, my Death Box has slowly been encapsulating some good mons which removes some possibilities, right? Or does it? In most cases I was planning for the Rat to come to this Elite Four. The Sucker Punches and normal Dark typing make it a super easy pivot and was almost invaluable, but then I have Absol. So is it really all bad? Let's talk tactics. This Elite Four doesn't really give you the EXP to overlevel the champion or anything like in modern Pokemon games, so you kind of need to utilise all of the EXP shares available. I then proceeded to spend the next day bashing my head against a wall in order to try and activate the neurons in my brain somehow, just so I could figure a way out. After a planning session that spanned 11 straight hours, I came up with this team to bring to the Sterling Silver Pokemon League. The first member and probably most pivotal, the shiny Gyarados from Lake of Rage. Mine wasn't exactly good IV-wise, but it having Intimidate, its amazing typing and really diverse move pool in this game meant that I could bring it for Pokemon like Swampert on Bruno. And it's simply an amazing pivot with unmatched bulk on my team. Second on the final team came Forretress, a Pokemon I probably underutilized a fair bit in this run. The main reason the big boy's coming along is to counter things that I can't beat one-on-one, like Bruno's Aggron or Karen's Tyranitar. It can also Volt Switch to pivot in certain spots and boom if I needed a Hail Mary. A kinda obvious bring to this Elite Four is Jinx. While it's probably not seeing as much of the battlefield as maybe Gyarados, with its utility with Fake Out, access to sleep with Lovely Kiss, and great power on its stab typings makes it an almost vital part of getting anywhere in this Elite Four. Absol is another pivotal member of this Elite Four, with the newly obtained Dark Steel typing almost causing more problems for me than helping. The main use of this disaster being its ability to use Sucker Punch with almost unmatched damage output and decent coverage with it also getting X-Scissor and more. This guy also maybe kills Mewtwo in a single hit or something, maybe, perhaps? Second to last is Garchomp. The pseudo-legendary was always pretty likely to come, with its amazing move pool, raw power with a 130 attack stat and a great speed of 102. The Dragon Ground typing is just so good offensively, and defensively with Stab Earthquake and the reworked Dragon Rush. Also, using Fling Garchomp was not on my 2024 bingo card, but here we are. And lastly, the Victory Road encounter itself. Gardevoir comes to the party, with it getting Psycho Boost on an incredible 125 special attack, which was also changed to become a recoil move instead of a -2 special attack move. It also gets incredible coverage with it being able to learn Signal Beam, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, as well as its stab moves, making it just have unmatched special power. With that, the Elite Four is set in stone. This is the Sterling Silver Elite Four team. Strap in, because this one is a little insane. On Will, I lead with Garchomp and fling my King's Rock at the Espeon, which is guaranteed to flinch in Generation 4. This allows me to switch into Absol on Psychic to sucker and take out the cat. Electivire comes out, so I go to my Garchomp on the coin toss between Cross Chop and Volt Tackle. It's okay that it uses Cross Chop, as an Earthquake still takes it out, and then the following Absol, thanks to it not seeing kill with Sucker thanks to my health still being reasonably high. Next in is Porygon Z, and this one's actually really tough, as it sees kill with both Hyper Voice and Psycho Boost. And I go to my Absol to try and hopefully bait Psycho Boost, as we take 65% from a Hyper Voice on the switch in. Thankfully, just one Sucker Punch later and Porygon is down. I then go to Gyarados on Typhlosion, and a single Earthquake is enough to take out the Honey Badger. This just leaves the final mon, Chlorophyll Exeggutor, so I go to Forretress to bait a move that won't kill Absol, so I can go in and sucker the living shit out of Eggy, winning us the fight against Will deathless, but far from riskless. Now we can stand up to Koga, who's still something of a poison type specialist, just carrying a couple other guys to come along for the ride, including the scary shadow tag Bayonet. His lead Gastrodon gets displaced by my Gyarados using Power Whip of all moves, as Forretress comes out to what I thought was going to be Volt Switch, but I got flashed a couple times on my Garchomp, as I can break the Ochre Berry and repeat to get the kill on Foray. A quick swing in a Gyarados on Ninjask, who's being annoying, means that I can Waterfall it, and then proceed to Rapid Spin and kill the bug, and I Volt Switch out against Bayonet to Crunch, as there's a solid chance he was going for Will-O-Wisp, meaning that Sucker Punch would have been useless. Crobat comes out, so I go through Gyarados a couple of times to Intimidate drop, and then I can get Gardevoir in on Heat Wave to live the Brave Bird coming in, and Psychic to take out the bat, leaving just the final Mon Drapion in the back. I'm able to then go to Chomp, send in the Earthquake, and take out the Scorpion to beat Koga. Bruno's interesting, as I can lead Jinx to Oko with Psychic on the Infinite before going in a foray on Aggron to try and counter its head smashes. Luckily he uses Superpower on the first turn, which procs my Citrus, allowing me to live one more and kill on the next turn. I go to Gyarados on the Swampert as it has almost nothing for it, and I can take it down with a big critical Power Whip. I'm now faced with a super threatening Gallade in my face and really am not sure what to do. I go to Garchomp on the switch to tank the Stone Edging, and can stay in to do big damage with Earthquake, taking it out after the recoil. Jinx is faster and able to kill with a Blizzard through the sand thanks to it having the wide lens equipped. Machamp is in, and this guy is super scary, with no guard and a Quick Claw to hit me whenever it wants to. With some pivoting, I'm able to get Gyarados in to Intim drop it enough times that I can go for Fly on it and kill it to beat Bruno. This just leaves Karen and the champion to fight, so let's finish this. I lead with Jinx and go straight to Gary to neutralize the download boost, and Earthquake it after it breaks its own sash to try and hit me. I can stay in on Tyranitar and take it out with a pair of Earthquakes as Karen got a little too greedy with the Dragon Dances. Now is what is really an untouchable Sableye. This guy got buffed drastically in Sterling Silver, and I have almost nothing that can even do half damage to it, allowing him to just recover and whittle me down until I had nothing left. So I go for an Earthquake in an effort to force it to use Recover, and on that turn switch over to Absol. Now comes the funny part. Swagger boosts the Pokemon's attack by 2 stages, every single time you use it. I boosted Sableye's attack to such an extent where it was taking massive chunks from its own health that I could get into kill range with X-Scissor. This brings out Big Ursaring. From here I go through Gyarados to Forretress, who with a counter can do massive damage, making it go down to its own burn after a switch to Gyarados on the Earthquake. Now I'm facing one myself, and pivoting around once more in an effort to drop Gary's attack stat with Intimidates, I bring out Absol on a crunch and can then 2-hit KO with Rock Slide and Soccer. All that leaves is Vileplume, who's just eviscerated by Gardevoir, unlocking the gate to the Champions Room, and trust me, this fight is cooked. Red of all people leads with Dialga turn 1 here, and he's looking to either set up Stealth Rocks or go for a Flash Cannon. I get a little lucky as he actually does go for Flash Cannon, meaning I can 2-shot it with Earthquake. Mewtwo comes out and I'm out of Aura Sphere range, so I know this guy is always going to use Psychic, and Absol embarrassingly is able to 1-shot it with a Sucker Punch. And because this is the champion fight, I'm happy to let things die for the sake of the win, so a Sucker on Moltres lets him take out my Disaster with his chicken. I can then bring in Gyarados to take a Brave Bird and retaliate with a quick Aqua Tail and win that matchup as Jolteon comes out, going for Hyper Beam, meaning it has to recharge for a turn. This lets me get in Garchomp and go up to 71 afterwards by using Earthquake on it to kill. I repeat the Earthquake on the Venusaur and go down to a Frenzy Plant, letting me bring out Gardevoir to clap back with Psychic. This just brings out Slaking, so I go for a Psycho boost for one last shot and do a little over half as Gardevoir hits the hay after a double edge. I can then get in Foray to finish the job with a clean Counter-Strike, winning us the battle against Red. This means we've beaten the Sterling Silver Hardcore Nuzlocke, as there is actually no Kanto region to explore, well, apart from a little post-game gauntlet in Mount Silver, but that's for another day. This was actually a pretty good run for the most part, nowhere near as many risks as I'm used to, even with pretty ordinary IVs for the most part. The Elite Four was pretty risky in parts, but with my box and natures, I didn't really have the choice to have a safe E4. With that though, Red says real words, breaking the 4th wall, and I can go into the Hall of Fame as a Sterling Silver champion. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and let me know in the comments down below what your favourite part was. Also subscribe while you're down there, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.